Hello, and welcome to Zap the Gender Pay Gap, the podcast series where we expose the elephant in the room. The elephant's name, the gender pay gap. I am coming to you from Memphis, Tennessee, located on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Nestled in the southwest corner of the state, Memphis is home to the blues, barbecue, and so much more. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker.
Thank you so very much for joining me for today's episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Look for me on Apple, Spotify, Google, and YouTube. On this episode, I will be talking about how to have more money than mom. Wouldn't you like that? I know, me too. Because my mission in life is to leave each person and place better than I found them, I just love it when someone gains valuable insights when I share about the gender pay gap. I had the privilege of talking to a room filled with HR professionals, and several were unpleasantly surprised by some of the data I shared. I always like to start with the female to male earnings ratio for the workforce in general, which is, if you've been listening to previous episodes, you'll remember that it is 82%. Said another way, women earn 82 cents for every dollar men earn. Now, if the female to male earnings ratio is 82%, the difference, which is called the gender pay gap, is what? Yes, the gap is 18%. When talking with a group, I always like to share the data for their specific profession. In this case, the female to male earnings ratio for HR professionals who are non managers with no direct reports was 81.4%, pretty close to the overall ratio. But for HR managers, it is a little better at 91.5%. Now, a 9.5% raise be rare for some, but it is not unheard of. But when I asked the attendees in the room, when was the last time you had an 18% raise? Guess what they said? Never. I'll ask you the same question. When was the last time you had an 18% raise? The picture is getting clearer. In essence, the gender pay gap takes money out of a woman's paycheck, 18%, in some cases more. This elephant quietly grabs a chunk of a woman's pay that rightfully belongs in her pocketbook, or literally, should I say, her checking account. Just think about it. What would it really feel like to get an 18% raise? Talk about more money than mine. What could you do with an 18% raise? Would you spend it or save it? I'd spend some and save some. Just this month, while reviewing our business bank account, saw an extra deposit of $5,000. I didn't celebrate too quickly, though, because I wanted to make sure it was not a mistake. God forbid we spend money that we would have to eventually pay back. No, I double checked before I started celebrating, having some extra cash on hand. I really, really wish I could say that one day you will check your bank account and voila, you'll find some extra money, but it doesn't happen that way. I love the quote from the insurance commercial. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. If you are caught in the gender pay gap, the way you increase your chance of experiencing more money than mom is to ask for it. As someone said to me once, it is always no until you ask. Now, am I asking you to go off half-cocked, barging into your boss's office demanding a raise? No, I would not dare recommend you go into this ill-prepared. When it comes to zapping your gender pay gap, you must first find out if you have one. Another question I asked the group of HR professionals was this: do you know the pay range for your job? I didn't ask for a show of hands, but I sensed by the reaction in the room, or lack thereof, they didn't know the pay range for their current position. As I said to them, so say I to you, do you know the pay range for your current job? If the answer is no, please find out. For those who work in higher education or government jobs, Pay and pay ranges are often published. It's public knowledge. But this is usually not the case in some for-profits and not-for-profits. So guess what? You will have to ask. You can ask your boss or your HR rep. They should know, have the information or know where you can obtain the information. Many companies are making commitments to pay transparency. Some states are codifying it into law. Perhaps your company has made such a commitment, or you live in a state where it is law. If so, they should gladly share this information for your current position. Do you feel hesitant? Maybe unsure whether or not you should ask? That's natural. You may feel fearful about asking, not knowing the outcome. For some, that is very natural. I can relate. Or you may be asking yourself, what if the answer is no? Remember what I said before? It is always no until you ask. I'm not trying to pressure you, but the best way to find out if you are caught in the gender pay gap is to first know the pay range for your job. You may be asking, so how will that help me? My response, which is what I shared with the HR professionals I was presenting to, was this. What if you knew the pay range for the job before you accepted it? If you knew the pay range for your current job before you accepted it, would you have asked for more than they offer? Imagine seeing the eyes of those in the room widen. If they had known the pay range for the position when they applied, they would have been in a better position to negotiate a higher salary. Now, a highlight of the day happened after the session. One of these young professionals said she was glad she attended my session, and I was glad she was there as well. She shared that she was in the process of negotiating pay for a new position and that what I had shared would help her better advocate for higher pay. It's amazing what getting new information can do for you if only you use it to your betterment. You may be asking, why does this matter so much to you, Gwendolyn? Because because women, not only do we work hard for our money, we also spend a lot of time doing it. I want you to take home all of it. It's a major way to have more money than month. Let me show you how. Reach out to me at gwendolynjtucker.com. I look forward to hearing from you. We're out of time for today, but I do thank you so very much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you here next Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time for the next episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. Until then, please be well.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Zap the Gender Pay Gap. Please rate, review, and subscribe to or follow me wherever you get your favorite podcast. I am your host, Gwendolyn Tucker. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.